Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So I'm going to give people a couple of minutes to tune in before I get started. Just going to wait for you all to tune in before I get started. So just bear with me a second. Peace and blessings, everyone. Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So today I want to share my thoughts about the rebellion that's going on in Minneapolis. As you all know, the brother George Floyd was lynched live on camera. This brother was stopped allegedly for using counterfeit money, a $20 bill. The police arrested this brother. They handcuffed this brother. They had this brother on the ground. And while this brother had his hands behind his back, while this brother was cuffed, while this brother was unarmed, you had this white police officer put his knee on his brother's neck. And again, this all was captured on video. He kept his knee on his brother's neck. As his brother repeatedly said, he can't breathe. Just like Eric Garner, he said, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. He said, I'm hurting everywhere. And then not only that, you had the crowd basically tell this police officer, get off of this man. This man can't breathe. And then at one point, this brother was unconscious. And this police officer kept his knee on his brother's neck. And when this police officer finally got off of this brother, and they put this brother on the bench, to put him into the ambulance, they put him on the cot or whatever to put him in the ambulance. This brother was non-responsive. This brother was unconscious. And then this brother later died. Now they told us some story about this brother resisting arrest. They said that he resisted arrest, and that's why he was shackled, that's why he was restrained. And then later on, we see video of his arrest. Video right before the moment when he was on the ground with this pig's knee in his neck. And that video doesn't show this brother resisting arrest. It shows them cuff this brother. He's not putting up any kind of fight with these police. They simply cuff him, and at one point he's sitting on the ground. And then later on, we see this brother on the ground, face down, with this pig having his knee in his brother's throat. On his neck. And the brother is saying repeatedly, I can't breathe. Just like Eric Garner. All this stuff is captured on videotape. And, you've had legal experts say that just looking at the tape, looking at all the evidence, this is murder. Because there's no way that this man posed any kind of threat at all to that police officer at that point. He has his hands behind his back. He's handcuffed, which means he can't punch anybody. He can't do anything to pose any kind of threat to anyone. He repeatedly tells this officer that he can't breathe. And that police officer completely ignores him. Not only does the officer ignore him, that officer ignores the pleas from the crowd. The crowd, again, is telling him to get off of that brother. The brother can't breathe. They're telling him that this brother is unconscious. But this police officer keeps his knee in this brother's neck. You know, according to some of the witnesses there, they said the brother's nose was bleeding and everything. And this police officer, this damn pig, kept his knee on his brother's back. And this whole thing, again, was captured on video. And despite all of that, no charges have been filed against these police officers. No charges have been filed against that officer who had his knee on his brother's neck. No charges have been filed against this police officer that killed this brother. And people are acting like they're all amazed that the people are rebelling in Minneapolis. They're all shocked and astounded that the people are outraged. Here you have evidence. I mean, what more do you need to convict these pigs of brutalizing black people? Here you have all the evidence you need. All the evidence you need in the world. But yet and still, no charges have been filed yet. So I understand the outrage of the people. And I'll get to your comments in a second. I understand the people's outrage. The people are sick of the routine. The people are sick of the whining and pleading for people to recognize our humanity. They're sick of it. They're sick of telling police that Black lives matter. And for that, just that basic concept to be controversial. They're sick of it. They're sick of the politicians who talk about how they're going to change everything, how they're going to make everything so different. But yet and still, regardless of who's in office, they still see the same police brutality. They still see lives being lost at the hands of these police. They're tired of it. They're tired of the hashtag mentality that we see, where everything is about coming up with some clever hashtag, and all people do is hashtag everything on a Twitter, as if that is real activism. They're tired of the slacktivism. They're tired of people simply talking. They're tired of the inequality. They're tired of seeing black people being lynched at the hands of these police. Time and time again, we as a people are terrorized by these police. Not just terrorized by the individual action that police officer took, but terrorized by the video that we see played over and over again, where these police are literally lynching black people. Terrorized by that. That's psychological warfare. Anyone watching that tape and seeing that there has been no arrest in this case all these days later, you have to be outraged. And that's what the people are. They're outraged and they're rebelling because so far the system has failed black people. It's failed us. You know, anytime you have somebody that kills someone live on camera and there's no arrest yet, and you got these prosecutors trying to explain away why there is no arrest, of course you're going to have people outraged. Later, for these civil rights performances, it's time for real action. And I understand the rage of the people there in Minneapolis. That's the same rage that the young people had here in Baltimore when they saw the brother Freddie Gray killed with his neck shattered. And to this day, there was no real justice for Freddie Gray. None of these police went to jail for committing that crime. Here you have communities, for instance, in Baltimore, Maryland, right here where I am. Communities ignored for the longest time by the political establishment. Communities that are disinvested, completely neglected, year after year, administration after administration. You know, you had these politicians talk a good game, but they do nothing for the people. Communities lack the resources that they need. Children lack the education that they need, neglected time and time again. You have police terrorizing black communities with impunity year in and year out. And when people saw that that brother Freddie Gray had his neck shattered, they said, to hell with this. Enough is enough. And the young people took matters into their own hands because the adult leadership had failed them. You know, the political leadership had failed them. The so-called activists have failed them. So the young people said, to hell with it. We're going to take matters into our own hands. We're going to seize our own destiny. And that's what those people are doing in Minneapolis, taking matters into their own hands. And the first thing that these old foot-shuffling house Negro leaders want to tell you is that violence is not the answer. That's the first thing that they tell you, you know, that violence is not the answer. And I understand where they're coming from. I understand these people that say that. But these same people celebrate the American Revolution on the 4th of July. You know, they celebrate U.S. independence. But how did the United States become independent? It became independent through revolution. That's how America gained its independence. These same people that want to talk to you about how violence is not the answer are the same people that are silent when the U.S. military occupies countries all around the world. These same people that want to tell you that violence is not the answer are the same people that tell you to be patriotic and to celebrate the troops and all that kind of stuff. The same troops that are invading countries around the world, bombing countries around the world, killing people around the world. But yet these people want to tell you that violence is not the answer. History is written with blood, unfortunately. Revolutions bring about change, unfortunately. You had the French Revolution, the Chinese Revolution, all these revolutions that were used to bring about change. And unfortunately, sadly, here in America, communities are ignored until you have rebellions like this. Communities long ignored, like here in Baltimore, ignored for the longest time. And after the rebellion, all of a sudden, people want to invest in these communities. All of a sudden, people want to conduct the investigations that should have been conducted. All of a sudden, people want to bring in the Justice Department, and the Justice Department finally does its job. So I understand the outrage of the people. I understand it completely. You know, these people are more concerned with white property than they are concerned with black lives. They are more concerned with shattered windows than they are concerned with shattered dreams, than they are concerned with shattered lives. And they are concerned with this brother being lynched live on camera. The welfare of these businesses, you know, and this property is more valuable than the lives of black people like this brother, George Floyd. And it's just crazy, man. It's outrageous. You know, you even had a president of the United States calling the protesters thugs when he's the biggest thug in the world. And this man has the nerve to call these protesters thugs when he's the one on Twitter threatening to shoot people who protest, who engage in a rebellion. Talking about how if there is looting, there will be shooting. That's what your president said. And he has the nerve to call anybody a thug when it's his administration that has downplayed the issue of police brutality. When it's his administration that told you and me that police brutality was some state issue, not a federal issue. This man is the biggest thug in the world, and he has the nerve to call these protesters who are demanding justice thugs. He's the one that, that's threatening to have people shot for so-called looting. That's what your president has said. That tweet that he put out violated Twitter's policy, and they had to take down that tweet. I went to search for that tweet, and I saw that it was taken down because it's threatening violence. This is your president, man. That has the nerve to call somebody a thug. This whole situation is crazy, man. When these people start to care about black lives, then maybe I'll care about what happens to some white property, man. And I'm just like, the people are just sick of these mealy mouth leaders. Like you had some city council woman, talking about this issue. And then what she did is she started to sing Amazing Grace. That is not leadership. That's not strong leadership. That's punkified leadership, man. We need leaders who are willing to do what I do every day on this YouTube channel, speak truth to power without fear. In this time and age where you had this police brutality going on, you got these people, these elected officials who are on this kumbaya type of mentality. They want to gloss over these ugly realities and pretend like race is not an issue nowadays. They don't want to even mention the word race. They don't even want to bring that subject up because they're afraid of alienating their white donors and some white voters. But this whole situation is outrageous, man. And to make matters worse, you have these sellouts that want to change the conversation. People like that Candace the Coon Owens trying to change the conversation. By changing it into a discussion about some black-on-black violence. This doesn't have anything to do with black-on-black violence. This is about police brutality. This is about people under a color of law killing black people and getting away with it. That's what this is about. If some black person, if a black person kills another black person in the neighborhood and the police identify that perpetrator, guess what? That perpetrator is going to jail. That perpetrator is going to jail without a question. But when these police kill our people, even when they're captured on camera killing our people, in some cases, they're not even charged. In other cases, when they're even charged, they walk. And you see the same cycle time and time again. You have somebody get killed. You have people express outrage on social media. You have a few protests. You have a hashtag. You have the same old recycled group of lawyers representing the family, asking for, getting money from the police department in the city. The family gets paid. The family tells you to behave. The cop gets away with it. And then we forget about it. And it's over. And then that situation repeats itself. And the people have said enough is enough with this. And as the brother King said, the riot is the voice of the unheard, man. And for far too long, black people have been unheard. And this is just a tipping point. You think this was the only case of police brutality in Minneapolis? No, this is what just set them off. This is what just pushed the people over the edge. Yeah, so those are my thoughts. And then also, I just wanted to respond to some things that I heard this Candace Owens character say. Like, she was talking about black people. And basically, she's saying that black people are stupid and we're reactionary and this and that. And she was saying that we act like trained chimpanzees. when speaking, she was talking about this George Floyd situation, but she was also talking about other situations and saying that we're manipulated and this is all about media trying to affect the election and all that kind of stuff. This stuff has nothing to do with the election. I mean, you would think that people like her actually believed that they said, okay, we're going to kill this person at this time so that we can make sure that George Bush doesn't, that Donald Trump doesn't get elected. I mean, that's just preposterous. The people are simply expressing outrage about something that happened. And anybody that's not outraged by what has happened, there's something wrong with you. You don't have a soul. And you had this woman, downplaying this stuff and using racist terminology to describe her own people, referring to black people as chimpanzees. We know about that history of racism, calling black people apes, equating black people with monkeys and apes. And you had this black buffoon parroting that language. And it's no wonder that these white nationalists gravitate towards her. It's no wonder that these white nationalists love what she has to say, because she feeds into every racist stereotype that they have about black people. Stereotypes about black people not having reasoning skills, about black people being overly emotional, about black people being stupid, and then equating black people with monkeys. That woman needs to be ashamed of herself. And if you go into her if you go to her video, you will see all these white people heaping all this praise upon this buffoon. A lot of these white racists, they love the coon. They love the mammy. Just like they used to love that stuff back in the day. They used to love to see black people in blackface, or white people pretending to be black in blackface. They love to see a good coon show. And that's what they get over there when they watch Candace Owens. Yeah, so I just had to share my thoughts with you all real quick. This situation is outrageous. And, it's bad when the people are so outraged that they're willing to risk their safety to express their outrage. I mean, right now we have a pandemic going on. And, I encourage people to, despite what happens out here, I do encourage people to still exercise social distancing and still wear your mask. And I could do a whole nother video about that, but I encourage people to do that so that, this virus doesn't spread. We can express our outrage without exposing ourselves to this deadly virus. But yeah, that it's bad when the people are so outraged that they said enough is enough, man. They're sick of it, man. They're sick of the lawyers that are just there to profit. They're sick of the hashtags. They're sick of the mealy mouth leadership. This has a begging posture, has a weak, punkified posture, and they're taking matters into their own hands. One thing that I want to caution people about is to beware of these agent provocateurs as well. People that are planted to spark situations or to make situations even worse so that they can have excuses to arrest people. So, yeah, I just had to express my thoughts, man. It's just a shame, that here we are, all these years after the passage of the Civil Rights Act. Here we are after the election of a black president, and we still got the same police brutality problems, the same problems. And it's just time for us to take action. It's time for us to defend ourselves just like any other group of civilized people do. But yeah, I just wanted to share my thoughts. I'm interested in hearing from you, to the people that are watching this on the playback. I want to hear what you think about what's happening in Minneapolis. And I've heard a lot of these conspiracy people, talking about how everything is planned and blah, blah, blah. These people don't present any kind of evidence at all. And in fact, a lot of these people are parroting these right-wing, anti-Semitic talking points, um, you know, with no evidence at all. And they just get people hyped up. And really, all they're doing is encouraging people to be even more passive than they already are. But these are your YouTube militant personalities on here. But anyway, I want to thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to see what you all are saying. I don't have much time right now to go through all the comments, unfortunately, because I had to get to work. I'll just have to check out your comments on the excuse me, on the playback. I'll check out your comments then, and I may do a follow-up video responding to some of the things that you all have said. Peace and blessings, everyone. Have a great day.